Ladies and gentlemen, a very good evening and a warm welcome to the Red and Blue Review. My name is Nick Philpott. I'm going to be with you, quite frankly, I don't know how long. We're going to see how the evening goes, and we're going to be talking about the 24-25 transfer deadline window, which is going to slam shut at 11:30 this evening. And I'm shortly going to be joined by one particularly old face. Okay, and there it is. Okay, he looks very pale with his background, but he's got this strange thing and a new face to the show. So I'll start off with Lyons here, who's got his mic on mute at the moment. So Ian Lyons, welcome back to the show, mate.
I've got it on mute, which is something I would suggest you do a lot of the time when you do some talking. Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. And what people won't know is that behind the scenes, I just simply made a passing comment about Nick's white T-shirt, his white walls and his white teeth, leaving just a head there. So he's done us a favour and he's put his nice yellow away shirt on.
What I did to counteract that, I said, this shirt is older than our latest guest on the team. Okay, good evening and welcome to Jack. Jack, how are you, mate? And welcome to the Red and Blue Review.
How you doing? You all right?
I'm really well. So we're going to kick off, before we start talking about transfers in and transfers out, because there's loads of business going on today at the Sellers Park, which is why we're doing this little ditty this evening. Jack, tell us about your Palace supporting history. How old are you and where have you come from?
So I'm 21. My family are all from South London. I'm the only one who's not. I'm from Essex in Southend. So I'm a bit outside of South London, but I've been a Palace fan since I was born. So my first sort of player was Alan Lee, who I used to look up to when I was playing as a striker. Been a massive fan of him. I always remember him used to always have a headband on every time he used to smash his head open. But other than that, I've always been a Palace fan and always been a fan of everything to do with Palace, really.
Good. And are you season ticket holder?
I am, yes. So I'm a season ticket holder. Always have been since I was 6 years old. So I've always been a Palace fan through and through. In the Homestyle end, Block D. So always been in that sort of end with my dad and granddad as well.
Right. Okay. So you're not in amongst the fanatics then?
I'm not. So I'm just next to them. So I can always watch over and just see when it's going on. But always like to get involved when the songs start singing anyway.
All right. I'm going to say hello to a few people that are out there already. Mark Callahan, Paul Holden. Good evening, guys. Steve Jutt, Colin Squires. I can see you all out. Daniel, I can see you all out there, mate. Hang on, I'm struggling with my mouse. Hold on. Who else is there? John Knox, Rob Cranfield, Tom Samuel. Right. Stopping there. Tom Clark Samuel. Thank you for all the slides you got prepared for this evening's little ditty. Okay. And thank you for everything you do on our Instagram page. Mate, you are a superstar and we absolutely love you on Red and Blue Review. Now, more important than any of that, there is a certain gentleman out there called Bruce Muirhead. Bruce, I know you have been unwell of late. Okay, I know you have been poorly. I hope you are back at home now. Yes, I do know. Okay, people keep me in touch with all this sort of stuff. And on behalf of everybody connected with the Red and Blue Review, we want to wish you our best wishes and get yourself sorted out. We need you as part of the Red and Blue family, and more importantly, the Red and Blue Review family. So, mate, I hope you're well, and we're sending our love to you. Okay, and just let me know in the chat that you are, please, because I can see that you're out there. Right. I don't know where to kick off. I'll give you the breaking news on Sky News as it pops up on my screen. Raheem Sterling is in talks with Arsenal to join them on loan. Brentford signed Jaden McHomer for £5 million. Raheem Sterling says he is hopeful about joining Arsenal, and it literally is as we're speaking now. So the time on there is 21:04, and so we are live and exclusive here on the Red and Blue Review. Right, boys. So have you been close to what's going on? Jack, I'm going to come to you first. I understand you've got. Don't devour your sources. I understand you have a close link to what is happening live at the Sellers Park right now. Is that correct?
Yes. So I've been speaking to a few people close to the Sellers Park, and it looks like Chalobah is near enough agreed. It looks like there's a slight issue with medical sort of things. So it's making sure it's done in time, ready for 11 o'clock, and making sure it's ready done before the deadline. We're looking at, it looks like Matt Turner's going to be our second keeper, which I'm not fussed about. I think it's going to be a good signing, season-long loan with no obligation to buy. Hopefully, Chalobah has an obligation to buy, which will be a fingers crossed situation with him in the back line. But hopefully, fingers crossed, there's a little bit more news coming from Palace today.
Yeah, indeed. And so we're going to keep that close to our chest for the minute. Okay, and I just want to talk to a couple of people out there. Monty, Michael, I can see you out there, mate. I hope you're well. Paul Bristow, Lee Clark, and so on and so forth. Lee, I've got your thing that you produced for me early on the ins and outs, but it's actually been outdated because those of you who are not aware, it looks as though Odsonne Edouard is about to join Leicester City on loan. Okay, so that'll be hopefully a salary of our books. I don't know if any of you saw the manager's press conference this afternoon, where he actually personally congratulated the board, Dougie Freeman, and the chairman himself for the fact that we managed to hold our ground against Marc Guehi. I'll tell you what, Nigel, let's do Marc Guehi.
Congrats to Crystal Palace, to the chairman, to the owners, to everyone, that they didn't give in. And especially after the transfer of Joachim Andersen, it was very important that Marc stays, and also really, thank you to Marc that we always were very, very close and talking a lot, and he didn't, all the rumors didn't influence his performance, his mood, his professionality. You know, if the club doesn't give in and the player doesn't push too hard, then it's how it is. That also Marc Guehi stays Crystal Palace player and stays our captain.
So Marc Guehi stays at Crystal Palace, and that was this afternoon. He actually made that announcement that there will be no, whatever happened now, there'll be no further movement on that. Ian, your thoughts on Guehi? Guehi's going to be our captain for the season by the look of it. We are set to lose a shed load of money on him at this time next year, of course. When his contract goes down into the last 12 months. Your overall thoughts on the Guehi situation, please?
Well, firstly, I think both he and the club have handled it superbly. How many times have we seen clubs coming in and us to come into ridiculous fees when we've wanted more? So I'm pleased on that score. I'm also pleased to see that we're getting good, or certainly better, at the deadline day deals, insofar as that allegedly Newcastle ran it up to the wire thinking we'd accept it, then offered us 65 plus 5, and then we turned around and said, no, it's now 75 because you've left us no time left in the window to get anyone else. But I think what the most pleasing aspect of it for me is looking at all the Newcastle rags, such as the Mag and the others, Geordie Boys, and all the articles that in the run up to it, yeah, he's the best thing since sliced bread. Marc Guehi, yeah, he's well worth 60 million. We'll get him for 30. And then as the transfer window's gone on, they've become more and more disenfranchised of it, disenchanted, telling us that we're trying to screw them into the ground. And then as the deal seems as though it's not going to happen, he's crap, he's not worth it anyway, and they'll get him when there's next to nothing left on his contract. So it's been quite pleasing all round, to be fair. Marc Guehi has been superb during it all. He's seemingly not asked to move, an incredibly humble guy, and clearly that's part of the character of something, you know, that they were interested in anyway. But I think all this has to be tempered in that if he continues to have a good start, or goes on to have a good start to the season, come the January transfer window, we could be seeing this all over again, and it could be that one of the bigger clubs come in for him at the £70 million starting just to try and get it done, and I think we'd accept it. Also, it gives us a little bit more time to get to look at recruits and have them lined up for the transfer window. I don't see Chalobah as one of those. I know we'll come into the Chalobah one later on, but I think I'm not sure why we've even bothered with that. And who's to say that we don't actually sign him up in an extra 2 years to get more money out of him with a release clause or something around 75 anyway. So I think all good all round, actually.
You know what? I make you right on that last point about the giving him a year extension on his deal, his current deal, and hopefully tying him down to a buyout clause later on, and then that will really put the kibosh. Nigel, I don't know if you've seen Ian's message to you in our private chat, but I just it's not a bad shout. Is it possible? Let me know by texting me either way if it's possible what he is asking us to do. Jack, your thoughts on the Guehi situation, and more importantly, I want to touch on the Newcastle fans, the salty Newcastle fans, if you don't mind.
Yeah, so Marc Guehi situation, I think as a professional himself, he's handled it so well. I think as a club, we've handled the negotiations as well as we could. We've fought them off. And like we said, obviously, I think we've left it to the last minute as we can't get a player in. We've now turned and obviously looked at what we are as a club. I think, obviously, a lot of fans say we're a selling club, but I think we've done our business correctly in this transfer window. I think we've brought the right players, but also sold the right players, but kept the right players. So we're like with Eze, Guehi now staying. I believe now, hopefully, fingers crossed, we start looking forward to the future. Hopefully by January, we start making a little bit more in positions. And then fingers crossed, we start getting a new deal ready for Guehi, ready before the end of the season. So we don't let him go off on a free. I think Newcastle fans, as you kind of can say, Newcastle fans have kind of fought what they can of it. I think they're a bit kind of salty, like the fact that they haven't got a player they really wanted in the transfer window. And I think as Palace fans, we know how it is. Well, we've lost players in the transfer window at the end where we thought they were going to sign for us and they didn't in the end. So I think Newcastle fans are a bit salty in that situation. But I'm glad we kept a gem, really. He's a Palace player through and through, as we can see.
I think there's a couple of things to pick up on there. Jack, I don't know if you've got access to, on the right-hand side of your screen, there's comments, private chat, and comments. Monty's asked you a question. Jack, have you got the black strip? Okay, is what he's asking you.
I do indeed. So that's on order at the minute. So that's coming to my house, hopefully this weekend, ready for the game on Sunday. So this weekend, Sunday. So fingers crossed it happens in time.
And Paul Holden, so this is one that's going to go over your head, Jack. You're too young, but Paul Holden say, any news on David Nugent? Has he been seen in Sainsbury's car park yet? And that was an ongoing saga that never materialised. I want to touch on, ladies and gentlemen, out on Facebook Lane. You may not be aware of what I'm about to tell you, but I've been baiting the Newcastle fans for the last 2 weeks. 2 weeks ago, I was in Crete, and I was even doing it laying on the beach, bronzing my godlike body. Okay, and I was baiting the Newcastle fans. And the thing that really made me laugh about the Geordies is, can you believe this? And this is absolutely true. And I'm going to show you proof of it in a few seconds' time. In their club shop, okay, in the Newcastle United club shop, they actually had the Marc Guehi shirt up for sale. And there it is. I promise you faithfully, that is taken from the Newcastle United club shop page. They even had a Marc Guehi number 3 shirt on for sale. As Ian said pre-show, it's probably going to become a collector's item. It was as funny as, yeah. So what looks best, ladies and gentlemen? Marc Guehi number 3 for Newcastle, or Marc Guehi number 6? Play that again, Nige. Hit that button again for me. Ladies and gentlemen, you decide. Mark knows best. Okay. So, yeah, I think potentially, okay, let's look at it devil's advocate way. I think potentially that could end up costing us in the long term, 30 or 40 million quid, unless we get him to sign a new contract with a buyout clause. I think once he gets to 12 months or less, it's going to be one of those situations where we're going to have to take a hit on him. And you know what? The way they have dealt with it, the way the Newcastle, I've been on Twitter, as I say, baiting them all week. And it's one of those things where I think to myself, I don't care. I don't care that they're getting sorted. I don't care that it's going to cost us a shed load of money. It's one of those things where it's and you're still proud to say that Marc Guehi, England starting centre back, okay, still plays for Crystal Palace, and I love it. Right. So what else have we got going on in the chat? Mark's just too expensive for you. Yeah, that's what we should be singing. I saw that. Ian, go for it, man.
That's how to do it, Jack. Watch and learn. I want to know. Let's move this on from Guehi, because Guehi's obviously the main point of conversation, and we started well with that one. We'll come back to it, no doubt. But I want to know everyone's thoughts out there with regards to the window as it is, and where that's left us squad-wise with regards to depth, because we've lost a goalkeeper, got another one on the loan. We've lost a prolific winger in Jordan Ayew. We've lost a superb defender in Anderson, a prolific goal scorer in Edouard, and an average player in Elise. So, what are everyone's thoughts out there? Shove it in the comments, and we'll pick it up. Are there any positions that they feel that we're A, lacking in depth, and B, should be making a priority now with regards to maybe even not this window, but the January window? What do you think, Jack?
You're on mute, Jack. Jack, you're on mute.
Apologies. Amateur. That's why. No, I think a left back position is one key position we are lacking. Obviously, Jeffrey Schlupp can play in that position, but do I see Jeffrey Schlupp playing as a left wing back under Glasner? I don't really see it. I can see him playing more as the cam role and possibly pushing that to the left, but I can't see him playing as a cover for Mitchell. I think if we'd gone for the Gozen sort of route, when we was looking at that sort of route before, I think that possibility could be there. Cornet was another opportunity, but I believe he's now looking at Southampton more than he is Palace if he hasn't gone already. So I think that situation there is a main issue for us. I believe in Mateta, and hopefully Nketiah is going to be announced indefinite, and hopefully, fingers crossed, that one comes through as well. I think obviously losing Edouard isn't a loss for us at the minute. I think hopefully he brings something else at Leicester to develop into Palace. Fingers crossed in the future. Me being hopeful as a Palace fan that he comes back and starts scoring, that is. But fingers crossed that Nketiah hits the ground running with Palace. I know obviously at Arsenal he hasn't had as much game time, but I know at Palace he potentially could do as a cover for Mateta.
Okay, but ladies and gentlemen in Facebook land, before I introduce our third guest of the evening, okay, some of you have actually missed Ian's irony, Ian's sense of humour when he said we've lost an average player in Elise and a prolific goal scorer in Edouard. He was joking, okay? He was joking, okay? Oh dear, it's Fab Boy. Hello, Fab Boy. Good evening. How are you?
Yeah, Mr. Tango, how are you doing? Yeah, good to see everyone.
Boom! Very good, very good. Jack meet Tim. Tim meet Jack.
How you doing, Tim? You okay?
And Tim is our Red and Blue Review representative on the Fans Advisory Board. Tim, anything to bring us up to date with? Already, Bruce is out there saying good evening to you. So tell us, what's the latest from Fab?
Well, your season ticket's been revoked. We've spoken about that, so that's getting taken care of. We've actually got a meeting this Tuesday at the club.
By the way, before you carry on, at least I've got one.
Well, that's true. Yeah, fair enough. Point taken. But then when you don't need one, you don't need one. Anyway, so yeah, we've got a meeting coming up this week. A few things on the agenda, various things that are coming up, so that'll be good. It's a work in progress. I think like we said before, but we're looking to push them on a few things. The one thing I would say, where it's been enlightening for me, is kind of talking to the people that we're talking to, sort of discussing things. It's very interesting to see what's really going on compared to what you see on social media. Just how many things are completely wrong, and just for instance, the new stand. It does make me chuckle now when I see people go on social media and say, "Oh, it's never going to happen in my life," and all this kind of stuff. It's actually frightening, the sheer amount of work that has already been done for the new stand, and also how much it's costing, and going forward, the work they've got to do before they can actually start the stand proper. So yeah, that's been good. It's been interesting to see when finding out what is really going on as compared to what social media says is going on.
Well, give us some examples of stuff that's actually been going on, because I know some of them, Tim. So see if you can enlighten us.
Okay, so what can I say? So first of all, pardon?
I'll kick it off. Okay, I am very well aware that a lot of the offices have been relocated inside the current stand, okay, to make way for the building to start. They're actually utilising the Crystals area, the old Crystals nightclub, and moving some of the offices from the main stand up into Crystals, again in readiness for the building work to commence. Anything else you can add to that?
Yep, there's that. There's also got to dig out, because I think there's an issue with the foundations of the Holmesdale, so they've got to dig out below the Holmesdale, and that's a massive expense to do that. That's already commissioned to do. They've had to move high voltage and low voltage power cables, which has cost a fortune, but they've done that. New power, not substation, but a new something to do with the power's got to be put in. Yeah, I mean, it's massive. As like I said, the offices are being moved. There's all sorts of stuff they've got to do before they can actually even start the stand proper.
Ian?
Yeah, from what I understand, Tim, just expanding on the bit of the lower Holmesdale, those of you who know my little brother is been under the Holmesdale and has seen it, it's flooded and everything else. And it's always been like that. And there would talk way back in the day, 20 years ago, of water tanking it and everything else. So they're doing that now, though, aren't they, to move all the changing rooms and everything else in there. But I think just so that they can then clear the change rooms to then start work on the new stand. But I think the long-term goal is to have some underground parking there at some stage as well. Because I don't know if you guys remember when it was originally built, they were once talking about having a bowling alley down there at some stage, but such as the apocryphal stories went in the news. But it's such a vast space that it's just not been available to the club to get any sort of even revenue or income from. And it's taken for this 130, 150 million pound stand to actually get it going.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. Greg Ellis, I can see you out there, mate. Jump on if you like. Nigel will send you the link. Okay. He's calling it, and he's the man that knows, bearing in mind he is partially responsible for the build of the #1 court at Wimbledon. It's called enabling works, apparently. That's what it's called. Yep. The initial works is called enabling works. And he's also gone on to say, rumour has it, the underground tunnel is to give access to the tasty jerk. There was a guy called Phillips Von David said that apparently there was rumours of a couple of sandbags and some plastic pipes alongside the fan zone. Can you corroborate this, Tim?
I couldn't possibly comment on that.
Right. Okay. Let's crack on. So it is 21:24, except for Sky News are showing it. Guys, what time do you make it exactly?
9:24.
Okay, because I'm looking at Sky News Live, and it's actually showing 21:19 on my TV. Arsenal goalkeeper Neto to Bournemouth. And there are a couple of other things going on. Ipswich are in talks to sign Reece Nelson on loan. And so going back to our stuff, okay, Elise Anderson, Ayew Johnson, and potentially Edouard out. Okay, if we loan Edouard, these figures aren't going to, there's going to be about 30 million quid in outs, okay? And ins, Riyad, Kamada, Sarr, and Nketiah, we expect to be formalised. Lacroix has been formalised, and there's 37 million pound in. So your thought, and there's obviously a couple of others. Max Turner is coming in on loan, as Jack's quite rightly said. So your overall thoughts, please, on the quality of the outs, and of course we all know we're never going to replace Elise. It's a given we're never going to replace Elise to that quality. Your thoughts on the business so far, Mr. Lyons?
I'm in two minds. Well, obviously the big one's Elise. I think Elise is the biggest loss. I think it wouldn't have been so bad if we'd have got someone in to replace him. And clearly that's not been the case. As such, I'm still I'm surprised, therefore, that we've let Ayu go. So now we're 2 down on the wing. And yet in the last 2 games, we've not had any of the kids on the bench. Muthrian, I think he's a great prospect. His feet are amazing. We've let Raksaki go out, although I never rated Raksaki anyway. So if you're gonna weaken that part of the team, and not bringing anyone in, then at least have someone from the youth on the bench. Maybe that'll change. I don't know. Maybe they were hoping to bring someone in and it's not happened. Sam Johnston going, goalkeeper wise. Well, obviously we've got Matt Turner back in. It's a shame with Johnston. I think most of us would consider him to be the better of the 2 keepers, certainly aerially, certainly commanding his area, maybe not necessarily on the ground. But this is seemingly a pattern in his career. He does well, gets injured, spends a lot of time on the sidelines and then moves. But I wish him well. 10 million isn't that bad. I think we made quite a bit on that, haven't we, Nick?
Okay, Ian, I'm going to jump in there just on that point, on that very point. Don't forget, we signed Sam Johnson on a free. That is for our PSR conversion rate. Okay, that's 100% profit on Sam Johnson. I think out of all the transfers so far in the window that I just listed, okay, that has got to be the supreme piece of business for Crystal Palace in this window. Massive. Well,
I'm not so sure because Sam Johnson's gone, massive profit. Ayu, we got for 2 million, 3 million,
5,
right? Profit. Anderson, 18 million. We bought him in for, wasn't it? 18, right? 30 million profit. Edouard, he might be the only one that goes on a loss. But Elise, obviously, profit. I think we've done really well with moving players on. Certainly the likes of Ayu and Anderson at the latter stages of their career. I mean, to get £30 million for a centre-back who's 28/29, I think it's phenomenal. I think it's a great deal. And then just as much to get rising to 8 million for Ayu. I think it was 5 million for the fee, wasn't it? It was another million for actually scoring. It was another million for scoring from outside the box, and a further million, the last million, was for him smiling.
Right. I need to say good evening to Mr. Daddy on the left-hand side of your screen, ladies and gentlemen. Greg Ellis has joined us. Greg, say hello to Jack. Again, Jack is a new member of the team. So hello, introduce yourselves.
Evening, Jack. How are you?
How you doing, Greg? You all right? It's Jack. Nice to meet you.
Okay.
Hello,
right,
Jack.
Bob the Builder on the left there. Can you please explain to me the terminology enabling works?
Yeah, so okay. So I work in construction, as you've already alluded to, and naturally, as it's what I do for a living, I'm interested in the main stand build. So from what I can understand, enabling works has begun. Enabling works is ultimately the work they need to do to be able to. It's a bit like I'll probably use analogies. It's a bit like trying to clear your dinner plate. You know, you've got an old dinner sat that you don't want. So you've got to try and clear the dinner plate off so that you've got a platform to start from. So really, it's things will be in the way. There'll be anything from, like Tim's mentioned, anything from like power cables to walls to all kinds of things really that they need to clear in order to start building from. So ultimately, they'll also probably house the site offices within the installation as well. So they're just trying to get everything ready to start the construction phase of the program. So what will happen, you know, whilst enabling works are happening, is what's called pre-construction, which is where ultimately a design, I believe, starts at like stage 3. It goes through to stage 4 and to stage 5. And at stage 4 is where you get your main contractors and subcontractors involved. And what they really do is they take the initial concept and the design, and ultimately they make it real. So I'm not suggesting that the original design doesn't work. It's more of a case of how do we actually build this? So that's where main contractors and subcontractors are brought on board to start working out the feasibility of building it. So they take the architectural concept, which is by KSS, and they ultimately progress that through to the stage 5 design. So that will be really a thing, you know. I'm electrical, so that will be realistically how do we get from A to B. There'll be distribution boards supplying circuits for lighting and small power, etc. All these kinds of things that really that they will look to progress and design so that they can go through to installation. And not only that, there's things like more what I deal with really is there'll be, as you can imagine, many light fittings from various manufacturers, various accessories, switches, light switches, lighting control systems. It can get very deep. So that's really the work that will then progress off of enabling works. So they'll ultimately get it ready to start the construction, which will then be like internal block work and getting the shapes of areas of the building, how, you know, what it's going to house. So ultimately, chances are it will be boring stuff, really, sort of like housing transformers and HV supplies, and ultimately providing power to the facility.
Thank you, mate. I'm going to come back to you on that in a second because I want to ask you a question on the physical building in a minute. I'm just keeping my eye on the chat, ladies and gentlemen. Somebody out there just asked, is there any news on the Eddie Nketiah signing? Well, no, there's not officially from the club. With 1 hour, 32 minutes and 6 seconds to go, okay, there is nothing official from the club. But my understanding, and Jack, I believe you can concur, that this actually was more or less completed yesterday. Do you agree? Have you heard anything?
Yeah. So it was near enough. So the medical was all completed yesterday. I believe it's literally just waiting for the club now. We thought Lacroix and Nketiah was going to get announced this morning. Unfortunately, both of them wasn't announced this morning, but we were shocked about, to be fair. As myself, I believe they was going to get announced within 12 o'clock this morning. So being not announced then, I believe that Nketiah is going to be announced within the next half hour to an hour. Hopefully, fingers crossed, there is a couple of signings after that. But we believe there's no issues with Nketiah. It's just about the announcement, really.
Okay, thank you, mate. Greg, I'm coming back to you. Obviously, you've seen it on the screen. Ian's calling you the roving reporter. I'm actually calling you the raving reporter, okay? Now, correct me if I'm wrong. So the build will come, for those people at YouTube land that don't understand, the build will actually happen something like this, okay? They will leave the existing seating and stand as it is, okay? They will construct the new stand around the old stand, okay, very much like the Liverpool design, because I think it's the same architect. Okay, they will build the up and complete the upstairs with seating and everything else, move the old stand patrons to the upper tier when they will start work on the lower tier. Is that correct?
That sounds logical, yeah, and from what I understand, it is mimicking the Liverpool build, and yes, KSS, I believe, did the architectural design for the Liverpool stand. So I can only imagine that they're really looking to kind of replicate the same thing that they've already done. So in a lot of ways, Palace are a bit of a benefit there, that, you know, the bugs that they would have learned on that project, really, they should be really ironing it out on our project. So fingers crossed, you know, the lessons have been learned from Liverpool. I think if they construct above and that's ultimately deemed safe, they'll have to get that to a point of where it's live lighting, emergency lighting, and what they need to get a license in order to host an event, i.e. a match. I think if that's then certified as safe, then yeah, the works will start underneath, and presumably the capacity above is enough to hold what the current capacity is in the main stand now. So that sounds very logical. And then yeah, the lower part of it will follow. Obviously, I'd love to be involved on the project. That would be amazing.
Was it build 2 stories behind? Nige, put that back up again, mate. I'll build 2 stories behind, then the roof off in the summer. Does that make sense to you, Greg? Ian's brother, Kevin?
Okay, so by the sounds of it, it sounds like the existing main stand forms part of the lower. So they'll actually build it behind, and then ultimately in the summer, I guess, flood it with seats and away they go. So yeah, we'll have to see. I think they are largening. Don't know if that's the word.
No,
making the pitch bigger. They are making the pitch bigger, I believe. I'm sure I read somewhere that the pitch is being increased to size so that it can host tournament football.
Yeah, that's in the white. That's towards the White Horse. And Ian, we're very lucky to have your sensible brother online who's actually contributing quite well.
I think that's what I was trying to get in is that Kev's been involved in certainly not necessarily in the build, but in the early stages of it, and knows the guys that are behind it, and obviously is a structural engineer himself. So I was hoping he was going to put. There you go. So I'm sure my brother will put a lot of information in and around it. That
keep it coming, Kev. They are keeping existing stand. Otherwise, they will lose 3,000 seats, as they will never be able to build them close together with the new build. Okay, sort of follow that. I mean, does that follow what I was saying that they're doing the upstairs?
So what, Kevin, tell me if I'm wrong in the notes, but what I believe is exactly pretty much what Greg said, and exactly the example they did at Liverpool. They're going to build out the back, up and over the main stand. They're going to put the top tier in first, then move everyone up to the top tier, and then clear out what used to be the main stand, and then put the bottom tier in. And as Greg said, the plans also involve enlarging the pitch so that they can host European games, I think, European ties or something along those lines. Blimey, that's the first that they're going to, my brother. There you go. See, Kev, I do listen to you time to time.
Fascinating stuff, but we are talking transfer deadline day. Raheem Sterling still saying hopeful about joining Arsenal. Man United signed midfielder Manuel Ugarte from PSG. Arsenal signed goalkeeper Neto from Bournemouth. Okay, but still, Wolves signed Sebastian Lockhead. Never heard of him. Okay, Maxence Lacroix has become Crystal Palace's 4th signing of the summer window. There have been, what are they going on to say? After making his debut for the professional club, Sochaux, Lacroix then joined Wolfsburg in 2020, at just 20 years old. There he made his debut for the club under a charismatic Austrian manager by the name of Oliver Glasner. Okay, I won't. That's all available as a statement from Palace if you want to read anything else about it. So he's 24 years old. Okay, he's 1 meter, 6'3" tall, so he's a big lump. Okay, and he made 111 appearances for Wolfsburg, scoring 6 goals. International wise, he's appeared with the under 16s, 17s, 18s, and under 20s. Oh, and on the subject of the French national team, sending our congratulations to Michael Olise after his success of his time at the Olympics. He has today been called up to the French full national squad for their up-and-coming fixtures. So congratulations to him. Again, it makes me very proud. Mr. Lyons.
Sorry, I was waving, but you weren't looking, so everyone's probably thinking he's mad.
No change there.
Yeah, exactly. They're spot on. Lacroix, out of the ones that have come in, and Nketiah we'll talk about later as well, but Lacroix, I'm quite excited about Lacroix. If you think about what we've lost in Anderson and gaining in Lacroix, anyone that's seen him play, he's a step up. And I think obviously we'll need to give him time to bed in. But thanks, Nigel. You're so good at this because you were reading my mind. You look at the comparisons with Anderson and Guehi. Guehi always played the sweeper. Anderson was the one that went up to meet the ball, put the challenge in, and everything else. Guehi swept. But if you look at Lacroix's figures, Lacroix beats Guehi on a lot of these metrics. But most importantly, aerial duels won in the air. Now, with a lot of teams now following a similar pattern of play to we are, slightly more direct, you need to look at Arnie Slot for that. Man United are going more direct now. Having someone that can still win the ball in the air as a centre half, certainly compared to Guehi, is going to be important for us. So I'm really, really interested to see how he's going to perform. And I'm really pleased that we got him. And again, I can't remember what the thread was on, but I think Mr. Noble, the venerable Mr. Noble, and I were having a conversation on Facebook the other day about just pay the money, stop quibbling over 3 million euros. You know, it's not as if it was 40, 43, you know, rising to 46. It was 13 that we'd offered, rising to 16 million euros. And then if someone come on and said, no, we can't do that, you know, sending the club into rack and ruin and bankruptcy. And, you know, sometimes you just got to bite the bullet. We missed out on Ollie Watkins because we tried to play tough with Brentford at the time. We lost out on Reece James because we tried to screw Chelsea for Reece James at the time. And we lost them to bids that were no more than 2 or 3 million. We are very, very good at finding talent for the right price. But that right price isn't always going to be 6 million, 2 million, 8 million, 9 million. Sometimes you've got to pay that premium just to get someone over the line. And I think in Lacroix, we've certainly done that. And I'm really, really pleased to see that we've got him, especially on a 5-year contract as well.
Absolutely. And you mentioned the venerable Mr. Noble. He's out there now. He said the great thing about Lacroix is that Glasner knows him well. He wouldn't be here if Oliver Glasner didn't rate him. Bruce Muirhead is saying Nigel Croucher has had his Weetabix today because he's so quick with his slides. And Phillips von David said, well said, Nick. What did I say? I don't know what I said. To actually get... Well said, Nick. I know I did. Anyway, Tim, honest, actually to all of you, just a quick show of hands, because I asked this on the show the other night, quick show of hands. Have any of you ever seen, and this is an honest answer, please, any of you seen Lacroix kick a football? Hands up. One out of 4 of you. Okay. So, Ian, what can you tell me about Maxence Lacroix and his ability?
Well, I think I've just said it, haven't I, for the last 2 minutes? You got his stats there. He's quick. He's a good passer between the lines. He's good in the air, and he can play in a back three as well. And I think we've done our due diligence on him. Glasner likes him, as Ian's just said, on there, and I think the elephant in the room with regards to this transfer window is Glasner's come in and we started to sell some of the crown jewels, and it's just as much about keeping him happy for me as it is about getting the right players in. And I'm pleased to see that we've actually gone for someone that Glasner himself rates, just as we have with Kamada. And I think that will settle things down for us.
Jack.
Ian, my question to you, all it is, obviously, with Lacroix coming in, do you think that him not having Premier League experience is going to actually be a difference? Or do you think it's not going to matter as much, obviously, with Glasner's impressions on him and obviously the way Glasner talks about him as a professional? Do you think that's going to make a difference? Or do you think the Premier League stance is going to be a little difference for him to play in?
I think the German league's the closest to the Premier League anyway, as far as intensity and the way that they play football. He obviously knows the style that Glasner plays and knows what to expect under Glasner and vice versa. What he will notice and what they all notice is a step up in class, a step up in quality, and it will take him a while to get used to that. I mean, he's going to have world-class strikers against him, not just 3 times a season, 4 times a season. It's going to be every game in the season. So it'll be interesting to see how he steps up to it. But he's got all the attributes. You know, how many of us would have said Saliba was a decent player? You know, or Gabriel, or you know, a lot of the centre backs that have come from what you consider slower, lesser leagues, that have given time, shone. And I think that's what we need to give all of our players, a little bit of time.
Thank you, mate. I'm just going to answer a couple of questions in the chat. Andy Hopper down in Australia. Good morning to you, mate. I hope you are well. He's asking, will Lacroix be available for Sunday's game? For those of you who missed the manager's pre-match press conference today, neither he or Nketiah will be available. Obviously, Nketiah clearly won't because he hasn't been announced. Now, something remiss of me at the top of the show was to wish the old girl, Selhurst Park, 100 happy birthday today. Yeah, to our beautiful Selhurst Park. And there is speculation out there that, because I believe the actual anniversary of Selhurst Park is actually tomorrow, although they're celebrating the 100th birthday today. There is speculation in the world, and Jack, I think you might be able to throw a bit of meat on this bone, that they're actually holding back on the Nketiah announcement to celebrate the proper 100th birthday of the stadium. Is there any truth in that?
I haven't heard anything as such of that, but I believe if that is going to be announced, I believe the paperwork will be done tonight, and then it will just be the club announcement what will be followed tomorrow. Fingers crossed for myself and all Palace fans out there. We would rather get it done as soon as possible. We believe that if the deal is done, then we know it's ours, and we haven't got to worry as much as Palace fans. I believe if the transfer window shuts and then the paperwork's done, but it don't get announced tomorrow, as Palace fans always will, we'll always have a little bit of worry just in case until it is announced first of all, won't we?
Okay, Greg and Tim, over to you two. Talk to me about anything you know about Eddie Nketiah. Is he going to be a step up from Odsonne Edouard?
I think, to be honest, Nick, you'd probably be a step up from Edouard, but it's going to be an interesting one.
And it's just been announced, by the way. Sorry to interrupt you, buddy. Leicester confirmed new striker signing, Crystal Palace loan agreed for Odsonne Edouard. So that is now done. So good luck to you, Odsonne. Sorry, mate. Carry on.
Yeah, but it's quite a few Arsenal fans at work have said that we're welcome to him. I don't think they're overly struck on him, but we've got to be realistic in the kind of money that we can afford to pay for a striker. He's got a lot to prove. He's going to come in, and yeah, he's going to have a lot to prove. It could be exciting. He could really hit the ground running and do really well for us. I hope he does. We need that. We need a decent striker. And surely, with it being announced of Edouard's going off to Leicester, surely it's got to be a done deal now. But they wouldn't let him go without having the Nketiah thing all lined up for him to come in, surely.
Don't call me Shirley. My name is Nick, okay? I make you quite right, by the way. Marc Guehi getting Nick to cut the ribbons. What's that on the newsstand? Greg, over to you, mate.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Is he 24? Nketiah.
I believe so. I have that information to hand. You carry on talking. I will have the opportunity.
He's 20. Okay, 25. So really, he's entering that part of his career now where he's clearly not like the bracketed under 21. He's stepping up into proper full professional mode now. So I think in terms of his expectation from his own career, this is an ideal opportunity for him. I've always had the sort of thought process that if you sign for Palace and you succeed at Palace, you're probably good enough to play, top 10 football. I think anyone that moves on from Palace would normally do quite well elsewhere, and we'll see that now with Elise and clearly Guehi in the summer, who I think will probably end up at Liverpool. Players of an age, probably slightly younger than Nketiah, join Palace to springboard away from. And I don't think it's any, it's an open secret that Mateta will use that to further his career, and to be fair, we sort of mocked for a season and a bit or two, and now under Glasner has found that form. But I think with Nketiah, it's just adding on to what Tim said, it's now or never, really. It's the perfect opportunity. You come into the club now. His first task for himself is to try and get in front of Nketiah, or whether they play up top together, which I don't think they probably will. So he's got to battle it out and fight for his spot as the number one, unless Nketiah is moved on at the end of the season, or something happens in the next couple of hours, which I doubt. I think it's a good signing for Palace. And again, what Tim said, we've got to be realistic about who we can sign. It's all well and good being linked to players, like you said previously, like Watkins and players like Tony or whatever. These guys, they're wanted by your Bournemouths, Villas, West Hams, your Evertons. All of these clubs are after the same player. And I look at Nketiah, and I think we've done really well. England under 21 international, and I think he has the most goals as an England under 21 international. I think that's true. Don't think I've made that up. So you're picking someone out of Arsenal as well. So it's tough for players maybe to leave the bigger club, but really it's the big fish, small pond mentality now, and I just challenge him to prove it.
Ian, I'm coming to you in 2 seconds because I want to talk to you, please. I want you to answer the question that Greg's just raised, Nketiah and Nketiah. Okay, how do we play them side by side or not? Because Dennis has just said, has Eddie been announced yet? No, he hasn't. And Dawn Palace said, can't he play on both wings? But before you answer that, Nauru Amahada is expected to sign for Stade Rennais in the next few hours. The Crystal Palace player will arrive on loan. That's the latest I have on that. Okay, Ian, how do we play those two strikers up top?
Well, before I answer that, Hamada, I think it's probably been the one duff signing we've made in the last few years. I'm sorry that he's not made it, but I wish him the best of luck, and let's hope he actually gets himself a deal at the end of it. But with regards to Nketiah, I don't know if Nketiah's been linked. We've been linked with Nketiah for 2 or 3 seasons now, on and off, and I've always thought to myself, no, he's not good enough. He's not good enough. I personally don't think he's worth 30 million as things stand, but the market's a bit crazy at the minute anyway. But nevertheless, going back to what I said earlier about paying, in order to get people in, we've done that, and fair play to the club. I do hope there's not sell-on clause involved in that, but I'm sure that'll come out in the wash. As to whether or not he can play alongside Nketiah, I can't see us playing 2 up front, and the reason I say that is because Edouard, I still think there's a striker in there. The problem with Edouard is he cannot play the lone striker up front. He has to play in the front 2, which I've said on here for months and months and months. And he never really got the chance or a run in a front 2. It's either Nketiah or Edouard, Nketiah or Edouard. And I'm wondering whether or not the same's going to be for Nketiah. Now, as Dawn's noted, it could be that he shoves him out on the wing, covering the issue of getting rid of Elise and Ayew. But Nketiah must be happy with that. He must be comfortable with that. But then does that make him a poorer player? Because as far as I'm concerned, Nketiah is a fox in the box. The way Arsenal play, it's about giving the little short passes from the number 10, which we'll now be relying on Eze to do. And as we've seen all too often, Eze holds onto the ball way too long rather than knocking the little balls in. And I'm not so sure we'll see the best of Nketiah while he's out on the wing. Does that then mean that Nketiah gets dropped instead of Nketiah, which I can see long term being the case, because there'll be a case to play him in his proper position, which is a centre forward. So I guess as a result of that diatribe, we'll have to wait and see. I didn't answer it, did I? I mean, you can see various different options. He gives us various different options, but it all depends on how Glasner wants to play him. I guess at the end of the day, I would prefer to see him up front alongside Nketiah, but I cannot see Glasner playing that formation at the minute.
Somebody just said, Simon Pronger said the chap in the middle looks like a ghost. Ian, that's what I said to you right at the very top of the show. It's your lighting. I know it is. Jack,
No, it's my head.
Yeah.
It's not nothing to do with the lighting.
You're fine, Casper. You're fine, Casper. Don't worry.
I was just about to say I've changed my name to Casper.
Jack, I'm coming to you next. Greg, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I just more on the Nketiah thing. I think until we're linked with another long-standing centre forward, he's probably not going anywhere. I don't expect things to change. I think it's one or the other up top, and I think naturally for the short term, it will be Nketiah up top with Nketiah coming on at 70, 80 minutes. I would suspect, pending on how the game's going and whether you need a change of dynamic up top. So I think it might just take a few games for Nketiah to get a start. He'll probably play in the League Cup, I'm guessing, to get a full 90. But not only that, it takes a little bit of time to get up to speed, doesn't it? New club, first move, is a big thing. So yes, I don't think Nketiah will be replaced that easily or that quickly.
It's definitely a Dougie Freeman signing. I mean, they've been chasing him for since Ian was a boy, and since Ian had hair, I think. I don't think Tim had hair at that point. But anyway, Jack, before I come to you, latest from Fabrizio Romano saying Trevor Chalobah is set to undergo medical test at Crystal Palace as the loan deal from Chelsea has now been agreed. Your thoughts, Jack, your thoughts on Nketiah and Eddie, please?
Yeah, so I think I was in nappies when Dougie Freeman was first looking at him by the sounds of it. But other than that, I think, like Greg and Ian said, I do think exactly the same as them. I think Nketiah is going to take a little while to get up to speed. With Arsenal, he hasn't been playing, obviously, up front quite a lot of the time. So I do believe that he's lacking a bit of the first team football. Like you said, obviously, Greg, I think the Queen's Park Rangers game is going to be a good start for him to get full 90. So we can kind of sound him out, but like I've seen in the comments that him and Ezzy have been talking, and him and Ezzy are good friends, and I do believe that is a real reason why he wanted to come to Palace in the first place. I think as a club at the minute, like we saw in the Norwich game, Nketiah he's had a break, and then he went to the Olympics, and now he's coming back to form. Obviously, in the first game of the season, we kind of saw that Nketiah weren't up to full 100%. But in the Norwich game, I believe I saw what Nketiah was at the end of last season. And I believe that he's going to keep carrying on the form he is. But with Nketiah coming in, I just believe it's a massive upgrade from Edouard. And I think that it's going to be a good move for Palace, but it's not going to be a move what's going to happen overnight. I think it's going to be a move where him, Glasner, Ezzy, and all them kind of players link up together to make sure it happens 100%, to make him the goal scorer we hope and believe he will be.
You're on mute, Nick.
Simon Philpott has just come online. Thanks, mate. Only just got home. Any updates, please? Yeah, Chalobah is undergoing medical to join us on loan. Eddie Nketiah has not yet been announced, but Lacroix has been announced by the club. Simon, with an hour, 5 minutes and 56 seconds left to go. I'll give you a couple more that have gone through. Fabrizio Romano's tweeting. I'll give you what you say. Liverpool making an equal approach to Federico Chiesa. Not likely to go through tonight. No, Billy Gilmore to Napoli from Brighton has been completed. Fulham agree to sign Ernest Enuma on a permanent from Olympic Lyon. That's a here we go. Jadon Sancho to Chelsea. Here we go. Loan deal with obligation to buy clause between the clubs. Okay. We accepted the proposal. What else we got? And all the other ones, I think you already know. Raheem Sterling to Arsenal. Deal is in the final stages. And Ivan Toney is going out to Al Ahly. Is it Al Ahly? Never heard of him myself, but there you go. What else? This podcast should be sponsored by a caffeine shampoo company. Boys, I don't know what they're looking at. I don't know what they're talking about. I really don't know what they're talking about. Okay, so we were all agreed so far that the only thing that we haven't completed Okay, I'm going to throw a hypothetical at you boys. This is not rehearsed. This is not written down. This is off the top of my head. Mitchell gets injured tomorrow. What do we do? Ian
John
Lyons.
Ward.
Oh, yeah. Ian, your thoughts?
Well, clearly, Ward is the backup, and we'll have to stick with it. But Danny Emery, I think, would be the obvious answer if he wasn't at Bromley.
But he is.
I know. That's the shame of it. And I think this goes back to what I was saying earlier about bringing the youth through on the bench as cover. You know, I know that we've got a number of them out, and I think a number of them out to get themselves Raksaki, to get themselves in the window and maybe sell them on. But we've got plenty of good players in the youth team that could sit on the bench and do a job for 15, 20 minutes.
George Wagu saying Lerma on the left wing back. Can anybody else see? Go on, Jack.
So for me, I have a different approach on this. I think Jeffrey Schlupp, I know some fans won't say that, but I think for me, Jeffrey Schlupp, he's a left-sided player as such anyway. He can play in the middle, but as he has played for Leicester in left wing back position, I would rather him than playing Joe Ward, even though Joe Ward's been a credit to the club. I just believe as a left-sided player, I would rather him on the left-hand side as a Mitchell cover, as worst comes to worst situation, to make sure 100% we've got someone who can play that side. And him with someone like Eze, someone like Nketiah, or someone maybe like Kamada playing that sort of cam position on the left-hand side, I think that would link up really well.
And also, Schlupp's got the pace that Ward hasn't got as well. So
yeah, good point. And Ian Noble's actually agreeing with you boys that yes, Schlupp is the answer. Somebody's actually asking, this is for Paul Bristow, when does the loan window close, Paul? Is that also 11:30 this evening? Can somebody have a look at it for us and report back? Because interesting question. Greg.
With regards to like cover for Mitchell, realistically, how many games, you know, would Mitchell be out for? I appreciate that's a hypothetical question, but you know, if it would be upwards of 6 to 8 matches, you know, you could probably work around that. You know, if it's for the season, it becomes a bit more challenging, and I think you may look to dip in January, you know, for a temporary. But thing is, if you're bringing in people like Chalobah, you've got Holding, you've got Lerma, you've got Schlupp, and you've got Richards. There's you know, you mean to tell me none of those can't just move over to the left and fill the gap? Of course they can. You know, I imagine it would be Chalobah, you know, or potentially Jeffrey Schlupp. I just think we can sometimes look into these things a little bit too deeply and forget that these guys are professional footballers. You know, that they should be able to make, you know, another position viable, you know, given their talent. So I think it's nice to have 2 players per position, but sometimes I think you can be accessible and move around the field.
Paul's come back to us as I knew that he would. Thank you, mate. I hope you're well, bud. He says, yep, the loan window closes at 11:30 tonight with the main window. Jack?
Yeah, so I completely agree with Greg. I think Chalobah is going to be our left back or centre back kind of signing on a loan. I believe he can cover the left back position for Mitchell, but also as well he will be the cover just in case. Obviously, like Riyadh is now injured for a couple of weeks. We believe obviously as Chalobah can play in the centre back position, but we also have seen Marc Guehi play as a left back kind of centre back position, hasn't he, before?
Yeah,
so
he did play left back.
Yeah. So I could also see, as not as such personally, but if we played the back 3 when we were attacking anyway, Mark kind of covers that position anyway. Hence the reason why I think Jeffrey Schlupp would be perfect as a kind of attacking player on that side. But like you said, Chalobah is going to be the one, really, I believe. He's the left back cover.
Exactly 1 hour until the transfer deadline window closes. My Sky TV is definitely delayed because I make it 22:04, and on there it's still 2200.
It's about
I'm on 55 minutes exact right now.
There you go. There's something definitely wrong with Sky TV, but there you go. Okay, so tell me, boys, your thoughts. It looks as though Riyadh, I mean, if you listen to the press conference today, Glasner was talking. Oh, by the way, before we do Chatty Riyadh, and we're going to do that next, okay? Glasner. What is it?
Glasner for me.
No, I'll make you wrong, Jack. Greg.
Glasner for me.
Lyonsy. Casper.
Potato. I don't know. I don't care. Oliver.
Right. So, as we are all well aware, the Chatty Riyadh went off injured after a few minutes the other night. What looked like a no, I haven't got a moody skybox, Mark. Okay. But I just realised it was on pause play actually, so that could be the reason behind it. So Chatty Riyadh went off injured. What effect will that have on the back line? Have you got some breaking news, Jack?
I have, yeah, just so that you know. So Cornet looks like he's going to Southampton. Cornet. It looks like they've submitted a deal sheet for Cornet to go to Southampton. So it looks like he's not coming to Palace. Just
Thank God for that.
for you boys, all right?
Yeah, I'm not sure that he. I don't know. I don't even know if I want one of their rejects. So thank you for that. Yeah. So what effect? I mean, I know Chano is going to come in as a bit of cover. Okay. Ian, what thoughts do you have on Riyadh getting injured? And if you listen to the manager's press conference this afternoon, which I don't think you guys did, he actually indicated that potentially it might not be as serious as they first thought it was. They thought it was going to be remedial ligament damage. Okay, but apparently it may not be as bad as that.
It looked like medials when he initially did it, and it was a bit of an odd one, wasn't it? Because I think it was after his debut, he clearly wanted to impress, and I think everyone was having problems with the pitch at the time. Lots of people were slipping over. I mean, it was only a couple of minutes after that the Norwich guy slipped over and then dislocated his shoulder, poor guy. But I'm grateful that it's not as bad as it looks. And maybe he'll be back. But then with Lacroix coming in, and then you'll have Richards, you'll have Guehi as well.
Chalobah.
Yeah, and Chalobah, exactly. Then you've got 5 half-decent centre-backs, although Chalobah, well, a couple of them can also play in midfield as well. Chalobah and Richards could probably do a job there as well. Suddenly, Glasner has got some flexibility there with the formation, isn't he? Whether or not he's going to play everyone. Then you throw in Lerma, Wharton, and Decore, and that's suddenly, and Hughes, the albino Perlo. You know, it's the one area that I don't think we're short in. The area we're short in are down the wings, both fullback, wingers, and I think that's where the issues are going to be. But I'm pleased that Riyadh's okay.
Ferg, you're saying 6 to 8 weeks. That was the initial assessment after he went off the other night. The manager actually indicated he's going to be less than that. Lee Lockwood, I saw your daffodils comment. You left something at my house when you came here. Let me just pass them up to you now. You left that here, okay? So that's for Lee Lockwood. Anything? Southampton signed Ryan Fraser on a 2-year contract. Napoli signed midfielder Billy Gilmore for Brighton, as already discussed. Okay, so any other thoughts, boys? I don't know where else, because we've got nothing come through. Jack, I'm just going to check with you, from your people that you know who were talking, is there anything happening at the club? Nketiah, I'm sure he's done. I haven't seen it reported anywhere that he's not done or broken down or fallen through or any of the above. I know the medical was completed yesterday. Have you heard anything else?
So I am now 95% sure Nketiah is going to be announced. I believe that deal is finalised, as you say, Nick. I think Chalobah is going to be what's going to be close to the wire to get done. Obviously with the medical and things like that, I think it's going to be very close. Whether or not we submit the sheet in time to be able to get him in on loan, I think it is going to be done. I'm fingers crossed that Palace can get the business done. but classic Palace, leaving things till late.
Right, you're leaving that for me, Nick. You're muted.
Yeah, I said Casper. You never heard me because I was on mute.
You're muted. What are our, Greg, I'll start with you then. What are our thoughts on the Chalobah loan and our tendency to get Chelsea players on loan rather than buying them?
My thoughts are it's the double-edged sword. They either, Chelsea, if the player impresses, Chelsea takes the player back, promotes him to the first team, win for them. They have a Premier League experienced player that they possibly, what's the word? Where you pay some of the money, subsidised. You know, they might subsidise the player's wages in order for the player to get game time. Come to Palace, you're going to get minutes. That's what I always say. These players get minutes, they get played. So it's an attractive loan for the parent club. If the player plays well, but Chelsea don't think that well enough, then they're offered to Palace to sign on a permanent basis. So I think ultimately Palace are used in the best possible way, really, for and you've got to use the Loftus-Cheek and Gallagher examples here, in that they both impressed, they both played well, they both went back to their parent clubs, have done well, both subsequently been sold for probably profit, being academy players. So I think Palace are quite happy to take that on. I know that might seem a little bit like, you know, why should we do that? But really, we're not in the financial stratosphere that those other clubs are. But my opinion is it's a good thing. I think Palace make good use of it, and I think it would be silly for us not to maintain that relationship. Look, with the Guehi situation, they obviously didn't fancy him. They felt they had enough, or they wanted other players, so they let him go. And ultimately now, the players got minutes, and it's turned out probably on their side not the best decision. That's going to happen. De Bruyne, Salah, they have form in that area, you know. But you know, we've had the Loic Remis and the Michy Batshuayis, and they're the examples really where Remy was injured all the time, and but Batshuayi was half decent, but probably not really Chelsea level, but good enough to probably be sold and turn a profit. So I'm quite comfortable with it, and I don't have a problem. Obviously, we all wanted to sign Gallagher, and you know we're it's a pity that we didn't. But that whole scenario was good for everyone.
And don't forget Loftus-Cheek as well.
What about you, Nick? What are your thoughts on it?
I don't know too much about the player. All I can go by, but can I just answer a question in the chat? Is it Musbayo? Is asking the question in the chat. Is evening all? Is the Edouard deal? I presume we were going to go on to say complete. Okay. Yes, the Edouard deal is done. Okay, he's now a Leicester player on loan. My thoughts on him. All I can do is I can speak to you from the knowledge of one of my eldest, my children, who's a big Chelsea fan, and he is saying that he is an outstanding player. Okay, he's going to be the Loftus-Cheek that never made the grade. He should go on to have a fantastic career. I do begrudge the fact that what we do is we keep getting these rough diamonds from Chelsea, Loftus-Cheek, and the others that Greg mentioned. And we round off the edges and send them back better players that they make decent money for. That pisses me off a little bit. But all the time he's wearing red and blue. The only thing I'll say to the listening public is never fall in love with a loanee. Do not fall in love with a loanee. Jack, you wanted to make a point.
Yeah, so Trevor Chalobah is one of them players I believe that is going to be exactly the same situation as a Loftus-Cheek and a Gallagher. A Chupamangana was another player we was linked with as an attacking player. I believe he would have done better as a loan with an obligation to buy. But with Chalobah, as we've seen before, he played a little bit last season for Chelsea. Like as we saw, he played 13 games for them and scored 1 goal. So he is that sort of player who can get into them attacking positions when we need him to. But do I think he's going to be another Loftus-Cheek and Gallagher? I do. And that's what I'm a bit concerned about. I hope Palace, if they do get the loan in, there is a little obligation to buy it, or there is a first sort of clause in there before that. But I'm not sure about this one.
No, I have to say, from what I see, I'm coming to you right now, Greg. From what I understand, there will be no clause, no option to buy it at all. Greg?
I think with these loan players, I tend to think of it as don't be sad it's over, just be happy it happened. Yeah. And I know what you just said about Conor Gallagher. Obviously, we all wanted to sign him, but it was clear that it was never really an option. And I sort of wonder, should all loans have, like, as a rule of the Premier League rule or Football Association rule, should all loans have
an obligation
of the obligation to buy? You're basically saying if you loan a player, they do well for you, or they play a certain number of matches. Although that could be tricky because then, like, let's for instance say they play 10 matches, you've got to buy them. They clearly play 9 matches and then bench them. So then, there's always a little twist or a con, isn't there? But I do wonder if every loan deal that is struck has an obligation to buy or for a price. Like, for example, let's use Edouard now. Edouard's gone on a season loan. If the deal is it's a fee for loan, should we start saying, well, actually, there's no fee for the loan, but at the end of the season, it's 10 million. I know it's technically kind of the same thing. You pay for the loan, but I just don't know what, without really sitting down and thinking about it and doing the maths, what works best for football. For me, it's about trying to create.
Well, it's funny, Greg.
A bit more risk.
I'm going to break some news in a minute, okay? But that you just asked that question, but I'm just going to jump on and say, Mayo Sabio. That's how I pronounce that guy's name.
Ladies and gentlemen, with an M in front.
It is. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I'm about to give you some news of a different kind that none of the team that are on with me tonight are aware about. But I'm sure you're all aware that next weekend there is an international break. So therefore, there will be no red and blue review. Wrong. Because we have a special for you, ladies and gentlemen. You'll be very well aware that we have a proud association with Kieran Maguire from the Price of Football podcast, who, in my mind, is the most eminent football finance podcast out there at the moment. Well, not only am I glad to announce to you all that we have an exclusive interview with you with Kieran Maguire again. Bear in mind, he is a Brighton fan, so it's pre the Brighton game, hence why he's coming on, and he's agreed to come on. He is a smashing guy, even though he's one of them. So I will expect nothing but politeness and respect from everybody in the chat when he's on. But on top of that, his co-host, who's also a massive Crystal Palace fan, Kevin Day, also of the Price of Football and the 5-Year Plan podcast, has also agreed to join him. So I'm actually going to be, Ian Noble and I are actually going to be interviewing both of those gentlemen live on the Red and Blue Review on Sunday, the 8th of September. And you know what? I'm absolutely delighted that they're both volunteered. The reason Kevin's coming on, just so you're aware, I don't know, and I'm about to steal a little bit of his thunder. He is in the process of walking to every single London football ground on behalf of charity, for which he will be telling you all about when he joins us on the show on the 8th. Okay, so please tune in, even though you think we got no game, and there it is. He's actually walking on behalf of the Lily Foundation, and in the scroller is going across the bottom of your screen right now. Okay, and they're going to both be telling us about it. I'm actually more interested on the success of the Price of Football podcast. So, yes, we're going to touch on the Palace-Brighton rivalry. Of course we will. I'm interested to know How did they get put together? How did a Brighton fan and a Palace fan initially get put together? How did they become so successful? And I mean, this. I don't know if you're aware of the Price of Football podcast, but it's grown exponentially. It's blown. It is one of the best podcasts out there. If you've never seen it, okay, or listen to it, get on to YouTube or wherever you get your service providers and have a listen to it, because it is brilliant. They do a questions show on one day of the week, and sometime later in the week they do a proper finance looking at a club, and invariably is Everton. It used to be Derby every week. Yeah, we get mentioned quite regularly because of our Brighton get mentioned, of course, because of how well run they are. Well, we ain't that far behind Brighton in terms of the way we are being run. Look at this Sam Johnson deal today, £10 million pure profit, 100% profit, and I'm sure Kevin or Mr. Maguire will have some more to say about it. Greg.
Yeah, actually, you just touched on that, and I think that's something Palace fans we've been heavily critical over the last few years of not really being able to turn any of our players for a profit, and it's that's a fact. You know, over the course of the last few seasons, we've probably either not necessarily run a loss of transfers, but clearly players have gone on for nothing. Whereas this season, you know, has the strategy changed, you know, or is this really the first turn-ins of the cogs, you know, of like the generational players after X number of seasons? We feel we've, you know, picked the best fruit, and now we move you on. There's still fruit on the vine or whatever, but you know, now we're prepared to kind of, you know, cash in. So I think it's difficult. I find it difficult to get excited about it because ultimately it doesn't line my pocket. It pays for Parish's, you know, trips to wherever he goes on whatever yacht, and you know, buys him a new car or whatever. So, you know, I'm always mindful that it's good to sell players on for profit, but I'm probably a little bit cynical in that the budget for transfers is probably set well in advance of that. I don't think we're really reliant on player sales. You know, it's ultimately X money will be made available, you know, per annum or whatever, or per season. So yeah, it's a good thing. It's healthy. You know, I'm mindful we've got a main stand to build, and if I'm honest with you, like I wouldn't mind if we only signed a couple of players this window if it meant getting the main stand. I think for me that's become the thing that has to happen while we're in the Premier League. Otherwise, I feel like the tenure that we've been in the top division, I'm not saying it's a waste. I just feel like that would be a missed opportunity because, let's face it, should we succumb to relegation, you know, no one knows how long, you know, that black hole lasts for, you know.
Greg, in case you're not aware, I mean, there's certain comments about your headphones, your microphone. Lyons has called you Davros from Doctor Who, and Ian Noble says yes, it's definitely his headphones making the crackling sound. Okay, so just to let you know, when you're not speaking, do us a favour and mute, would you?
Of course.
Mr. Lyons, you're about to say something.
Yeah. Well, a couple of things, but let's just concentrate on the first. We've not even mentioned Ismail Sarr yet as an incoming player. And that actually quite shocked me because we spent a little bit of money on him, and the 45 minutes or so he's been on the pitch, he could have had 3 goals already.
But he didn't.
I think he hit the post and missed a sitter in his 10 minutes. The first game of the season, was it against Brentford? Was it, or was it? I don't know. It was, maybe it was. Yeah, it was against Brentford. And then against West Ham, he played quite well. And I think I'd like to know what people's thoughts on him are, because I think at Watford, when he first came in, thought he played really, really well, and they were probably quite justified at the time to ask 40 million for him, but clearly no one was willing to pay that. Certainly to such a club like Watford, and then he disappeared to the French league, and I don't think he's exactly been tearing it up out there, but we've clearly kept tabs on him and got him for what looks like a reasonable, sensible amount of money. But I think he could probably give us something that we've been missing on the wing, and I can't believe it. It's so remiss of me to discussing it earlier about how weak we were on the wing and maybe shoving Nketiah out there. If we got Sarr, then maybe if he wants to play two up front, someone in the middle loses out. Someone perhaps like Hughes or someone like that, in order to fit everyone in. Maybe the squad's not as bad as we thought it was in the first place.
Okay, well, before I invite the boys to comment on that, I'm going to give you my quick thoughts on Sarr. Now, there is two schools of thought on him personally. Listening to some of the Watford fans from time ago, they said he was a little bit hit and miss. I've seen him play two types of game against us. Okay, one Sellers Park one. I don't know what year it was in. Where he absolutely ripped us a new arsehole. He was a complete and utter threat to us and a pain in the arse. And I thought, and I could understand why he was always one of his favourites. But I've also seen him lazy. Okay, which is a criticism that some of the Watford fans had of him. Okay, not that I ever taken in those cabbages. So I think there's two Scott. I think time will tell with the Sarr signing. I'm pleased we got him. I'm glad he's not going to opposition. I think he'll be a useful squad addition. Whether he's going to rip it up at Sellers Park and whether he's not going to be lazy, I think time will tell. Greg and Jack.
Okay. First things I just want to point out is fun fact for you, Nigel. If you could bring the stat up of Ismaila Sarr there again, if you don't mind.
See how quick he is, eh? 3, 2, 1. Oh,
he's hit the wrong button. Man under pressure.
Wrong one.
That's the wrong button, you donut. Yeah, go on.
Oh, it's probably not going to be worth it now. But fun fact for you, he shares his birthday with George Harrison from the Beatles and myself. So, but his date of birth is actually the same year that I left school. So now I feel ancient. So,
the fact that you told me you and I have known each other now, I nearly said friends, but I wouldn't be so presumptuous. 7 years, and that your children are starting school next week is just incredible. And I wish both the boys well next week, mate. Jack.
Yeah, so I wish you well both as well, Greg. But on that point of Sarr, I think where he's gone to France, I think that's kind of lacked in his kind of form. When he was at Watford, I know we kept our tabs on him from the moment he signed Watford till now. So this has been a long-awaited sort of signing for us.
Yeah.
But part of me kind of thinks, was it too late? Because we had former Watford, and then he kind of dipped in France. But he's got to find his feet again back in the Premier League? Because that's my only concern I've got. I think with him, with the minutes he's played, Glass is not seeing him as a starting player right now. Is it the fact that he's been playing in France and he needs to get back up to strength? Or is it the fact of we've got better players in that position right now as such to play against him?
Interesting point. Greg.
I think, look, reading between the lines is not too difficult to discern, but Sarr and Nketiah are Friedman signings. Kamada and Lacroix are Glasner signings. Lacroix and Kamada are going to start games. And whilst they will take time to adjust, which we've seen with Kamada, I think he's come under some heavy criticism. The guy's going to need time to adapt to the league. They're going to start games. They are going to play. Whereas I think Sarr and Nketiah are going to have to work that little bit harder to get into the side. I think Sarr is someone that they see potential in. They wouldn't keep tabs on the player for as long as they have and subsequently sign him if they didn't think that he had the attributes that they can ultimately, a bit like what Nick said earlier, rough diamond, maybe not so much in Sarr's case, they know what they're buying into, but maybe they think there's the potential that he can kick on at Palace and become the player that they're expecting him to be. But I do think Nketiah and Sarr will take longer to break into the side than Lacroix and Kamada.
Okay, thank you, boys. I think because we've been sitting here for the last 10 or 15 minutes waiting for some sort of announcement on Nketiah, which isn't forthcoming. I think we'll leave that for Sky News to break later in the evening, because I'm pretty certain it will go. Ladies and gentlemen, I think we're going to wrap it up there for the evening, because there is nothing else going on at the club, only just literally the waiting on the Nketiah announcement. I'm pretty certain it's going to happen. If those of you who've got your Super 6, don't forget that expires tomorrow, so make sure you get your predictions in, and 1 day to go, as it clearly says on the screen. Jack has been, and we will return next Monday following the Chelsea game. I'm in the chair, and kick-off will be 8 o'clock in the evening, so join us then. Jack, there's been some good comments going through in the chat. I don't know if you can see them. Congratulations on your debut show. How do you feel it went?
Yeah, I think it went well. I appreciate you boys letting me on. Hopefully in the future I don't do so much slip-ups, but hopefully, fingers crossed, I'll get on again, and then we can have a little conversation about it in the future.
And when we go off air in a minute, Jack, stay where you are. Don't go away. Greg?
Nairu Ahamada joins Stade Rennais on a season-long loan, confirmed.
Yeah, that's been announced. No, that's been formally announced. Greg, you weren't planning to come on tonight, mate, but it was great to see you. And love to the family.
Thank you very much. Yeah, no, absolutely, completely spontaneous. Found myself doing nothing. She was watching Peaky Blinders, and I thought, right, okay, I'm going on the show.
and Casper, you look as though you need a bloody good meal, okay, and a bit of a suntan. It's great to see you, mate.
What I need is to unpack all these boxes in my new house. That's what I really need.
Yeah, get on with it, you lazy bastard.
The only reason he wants to keep you on is because he wants your credit card details to pay the bills.
What wing are you sitting in, Ian? What wing? The east or the west?
Sorry, say that again.
What wing are you sitting in your new house? The east or the west wing?
Yeah, the west wing. Southwest. Southwest.
Ah, nice.
And before we close, ladies and gentlemen, and out on YouTube land, we are looking for a sponsor for the show right the way through the 24-25 season. If you know of a little business who'd like to come along and join us, have their name checked at the beginning and end of each show, and on the little ticker bar that goes across the bottom of the screen, we would like to. We're not looking for hundreds of thousands of pounds. We're not even looking for tens of thousands of pounds. We're just looking for a few bob to keep us running for the whole of the next couple of seasons. Just 50 will do. That'd be quite nice. If anybody's got any ideas, inspirations out there, please get in touch with any of the team, including me, and we'll happily talk to anybody that is interested. A fake one like Nick, he's talking about the suntan. I'll have you know, Callahan, this is a proper tan. This cost me money. On behalf of my fans. You are fired. On behalf of this great team, I love you all. Take good care. We'll see you next Monday. Good night, everybody.
See ya. Bye.